Welcome to Snyder's Inc., where the fun never ends. Reactions, gaming, and more with Josh as your friend. Tune in, buckle up, it's a ride you don't wanna miss. Snyder's Inc., let's dive in, feel the ultimate bliss.
Hello everybody, welcome to Snyder's Inc., and today we got a wrestling reaction, and this is 10 WWE storylines wrestlers hated doing from Cultaholic Wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment, stick down below. Let's go.
With WWE television typically running the gamut in terms of the quality of the content it presents, a WWE star is never going to like absolutely everything they're asked to do on screen. This includes storylines, the real heart and soul of sports entertainment, and something that, given the time invested, performers want to be nothing less than top tier. That's not only not always the case, but sometimes a star will be so displeased with their scripted saga that they'll then let the world know just how much of a bad time they had doing it. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 storylines WWE stars hated doing. Join us. Number 10, Stone Cold and the Bad Guy. As one of the top stars the industry has ever seen, Steve Austin had the power to say no to things he didn't want to do. At the peak of his powers, Stone Cold refused programs or matches with the likes of Jeff Jarrett, Billy Gunn, and Mark Merrow, but he bit the bullet and engaged in a storyline with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash in early 2002. Rather than a dream match,
I remember this was pretty much the tipping point in causing, well, this is not the tip, this is the thing that started the trajectory of Austin's walkout in 2002. Because he wanted Hogan. He wanted Hogan, but The Rock got Hogan instead. And Austin got Scott Hall, and that made him very, very angry. Yeah, that was just the tip, that would just start the downfall of Austin and WWF in 2000.
with Hulk Hogan, the Texas Rattlesnake was booked opposite Hall at WrestleMania 18, and the creative direction of their feud in the build-up to the showcase of the Immortals did not meet Austin's standards. The bad guy himself later claimed that Austin was annoyed because he felt that he should have been in a main event against the Hulkster and had to settle for what he got instead. To make matters worse, both Austin and Hall were going through personal issues at the time, and their in-ring work suffered as a result. The Bionic Redneck was so disgruntled with how the feud in the match with Hall had gone that he skipped the WrestleMania after party and flew home rather than go to Raw the next night. Number 9, a rough start for the Diamonds. Diamond Dallas Page's introduction to
Oh, this storyline was so bad. No wonder he hated it. He hated it. Taker should have hated it. Fucking everyone should have hated it. Sarah should have hated it. All should have hated it because it's just so bad. You have DDP, who has, I'll admit, a hotter wife at the time than Taker did. They're coming in, and then DDP is obsessed with it, and then Taker literally beats the living dog shit out of DDP out of Diamond Dallas Page the entire time. The entire time. It is brutal.
WWE as part of the invasion was mishandled from the get-go. Rather than portray a character similar to the one that had worked so well in WCW, WWE instead had him turn into a creepy stalker who was targeting The Undertaker's then-wife, Sarah Calloway. Page gave up his guaranteed contract with WCW parent company Time Warner in order to have his WWE run, and admitted that, in hindsight, he should have said thanks but no thanks when the creative direction of his feud with the Dead Man was presented to him. DDP pointed out how he didn't feel like him trying to seduce another man's wife made sense, given that he was married to ex-Nitro girl Kimberly at the time, but he wanted...
Yeah, it doesn't. It makes no sense. Kimberly is smoking hot. I'll say it. It should have been, and is way more attractive than Sarah is. At least comparing the two. I'm not saying Sarah isn't attractive, but like, if you're DDP and you're with Kimberly, you ain't gonna go for that Sarah. You just ain't gonna do it. You're an idiot if you do.
wanted to be a team player and stick things out to see where they were leading. They were leading to Dallas getting routinely pummeled by Taker and Kane and eventually pinned by Sarah on an episode of Raw, completing one of the most obvious on-screen burials in WWE history. And let me tell you, Yoga Dad, that's not a good thing. Number 8, unfit for the king. Jake Roberts was involved in some heavy-duty story.
Oh, I know this one. 1996. Jerry Lawler feuding with Jake Roberts over Jake's alcohol addiction, and Jerry, I'm pretty sure if I'm correct with this, pretty much because he dumped alcohol into Jake's mouth, and I pretty much just redid the addiction.
Storylines in his day, often with a personal slant to them, but the 1996 storyline he had with Jerry Lawler revolving around his history of alcoholism is one that he wishes he had never done. The Snake had returned to the company as a supposedly changed character, renouncing his villainous hedonistic past and pushing the good word of his Lord and Savior. His issues with substance abuse became the butt of the King's jokes on commentary and led to a scene where Lawler poured actual whiskey over the recovering addict, with Roberts claiming that the real stuff, rather than say iced tea, was used at the behest of Vince McMahon. Jake has long since expressed his displeasure with how the storyline went down and claims that if he could go back in time, he would say no to the idea. Say what you will about the WWE Hall of Famer and his various highs and lows over the years, but exploiting a genuine disease should not have been on the table.
Well, here's the thing. This is the part where using someone's past as a storyline, someone's addiction, someone's sickness, when they're dealing with substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, whatever. Being used in a storyline isn't a bad idea if done respectfully. And what I mean by that is not doing what they did here and pouring actual whiskey on the person who's recovering from the addiction. Because if you have someone who believes that someone who, like, if you want to have a villain in wrestling who believes someone coming from addiction should never be given the opportunity, shouldn't be given the chance, shouldn't be given second chances, or something like that. And that's their bad, like, their dark moral ground. And you have them say things about it, but then you have the person who's recovering overcome the odds and, like, beat the person and prove they're superior in that, then that's fine. But you don't have the possibility of them recovering from the addiction as the thing.
Honestly, some things you just don't do. I mean, how would Jerry Lawler like it if I talked about the time he... Number 7, pretty mean storylines. The Attitude Era was a golden age for regrettable storylines, as the ratings-chasing shock TV tone of the product dictated that pretty much everything was fair game as long as it could grab the audience's ever-decreasing attention span. One of the most controversial angles of the day was one that its focal point positively begged the writers not to go through with. On the January 4th, 1999 episode of Raw, an ostensibly pregnant Terry Runnels went to interfere in D'Lo Brown's match with Edge, slipped off the ring steps to the floor, and miscarried. It was, of course, a ruse all along, and Terry had faked it just to manipulate Brown to do her bidding until the farce was exposed. Runnels not only thought it was distasteful to use something tragic that people actually experience as fodder for a wrestling storyline, but was also worried about what the other kids in elementary school might say to her daughter Dakota. Terry had pleaded with Vince Russo not to write the storyline into the show, but Vinny Roo went ahead and did it anyway, bro. I mean, how else would the horny teenagers tuning in know that women are inherently sneaky and evil? Number 6, the Edge hunt.
That's the thing that makes this so weird, is that Vince Russo, Vince Russo's like the worst person to ever be in wrestling. I'll say that. Because the man doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. The man's never known what the fuck he's doing. There's evidence of it everywhere. Any company he's worked for. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like, just get out of the business, dude. Please, just do it.
Hardy and Lita love triangle. When Matt Hardy publicly revealed that his girlfriend Lita had been having an affair with his good friend Edge behind his back while he was at home recovering from knee surgery, many believed it was part of some elaborate way to work fans as the beginning of some sort of reality-based storyline. It became clear that wasn't the case when Matt was subsequently fired for exposing the affair, though Edge and Lita were duly...
That is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. That part I will never actually understand. Why the hell was Matt Hardy punished for his wife having an affair? His wife had an affair and Matt got punished by WWE. Not the woman who had the affair and the dude she had the affair with, but the man who was cheated on. That was the one that got punished for it. Vince, what the fuck?
Paired up on screen. Fans pretty much demanded Hardy's return, however,
of course!
and WWE opted to bring him back specifically for a storyline based on the love triangle. It was awkward, it was intense, and according to everyone involved, it wasn't enjoyable to be a part of. All three parties are on record as saying they felt uncomfortable going through with it due to the strong feelings involved, but felt as though they had made their bed and now had to lie in it. Not literally, of course, and certainly not with all three of them in there. Imagine how weird that would be. Though given how the Rated R superstar celebrated winning his first world title, perhaps it wasn't totally out of the question. Number 5, the Lunatic...
I don't know. I think the storyline could have worked. I think if they would have done it right, they could have done that story. That storyline would have worked. I think you could make something out of it, out of a personal issue. You just have to do it right. And you have to make it engaging, and not just have Matt Hardy get beaten up all the time. Which is what they did, which is what made it weird. But the actual storyline idea of bringing me out, they're like, that works. It always works if you're done right.
Whinge. There wasn't one specific thing that led to Dean Ambrose's decision to leave WWE in 2019, but his rotten late 2018 feud with Seth Rollins more than convinced him he was making the right decision to walk away.
Oh, Ambrose has even said in record and interviews he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave at all. He was forced to. He pretty much was forced to by the bad stuff WWE was having him do. He did not want to for any reason. He never wanted to leave. Never.
The Lunatic Fringe's persona had been getting progressively wackier over time and hit a peak, or a nadir, during the rivalry with his fellow former Hound of Justice. Ambrose would later describe during an episode of Talk is Jericho how he would feel physically unwell when it came time to go to Raw, as he was so worried about what his creative task for the evening would be. Whether it was getting multiple inoculations to protect himself from the WWE Universe, or uttering a scripted shot at the leukemia-stricken Roman Reigns, Dean would constantly have to fight against what the creative team were wanting him to do. He tried his best to make the material work, but much of it was irredeemable and turned what should have been a straightforward money-drawing program into a disappointing mess. Hey, if nothing else, at least the man looked momentarily cool in that fur-lined leather jacket. Number 4, Piggy James. Being bullied is never fun.
Especially when you're being bullied for your weight, even though you dope for being fat. You know you ain't fat. Like, I'm not even saying that no one should be if they are fat, but like in this storyline, Mickie James isn't even fat. I don't know why they make this storyline was stupid from beginning to end.
At least I assume it's never fun. Can't say I've ever been a victim myself, though I suppose I'm lucky in that I'm really, really cool and there's nothing that people can really make fun of me for. Right, guys? Right? Anyway, yeah, being bullied is never fun, but being bullied while you're at work and having that bullying aired live to millions of people is much, much worse. And that was the fate of Mickie James in late 2009, when WWE scripted Michelle McCool and Layla to make fun of Piggy for being overweight. James believed WWE were ribbing on the square and trying to simultaneously get heat for Lay Cool while sending her a message about her physique, which, if you look at any picture of the former women's champion from that era, was hardly an issue, was it? Mickie hated it and confessed in later interviews that the others involved in the storyline weren't exactly thrilled about doing it either. James eventually triumphed over her tormentors and got her revenge, but it felt like too little too late after suffering weeks and weeks of cruel ridicule. Number 3, Kurt Angle's Charmel obsession. WWE.
This storyline's so ridiculous. You see, Kurt, he wants to have sex with Booker's wife, Charmel. But not just any kind of sex. No. See, in this storyline, Kurt Angle wants to have bestiality sex with Booker's wife. That type of cruel, perverted sex with Booker's wife. What's hilarious is that's a legitimate quote almost from an interview. An actual interview in this storyline. Wrestling's the weirdest. It's just the weirdest.
WWE delighted in making Kurt Angle the butt of the joke. And to be fair, the Olympic gold medalist himself also enjoyed having a laugh at his own expense, whether it was by wearing a miniature cowboy hat, doing some Shawn Michaels cosplay karaoke, or failing to read the back of Edge's 8x10 pictures. Kurt was less fond of being portrayed as a sadistic sexual deviant hell-bent on having his way with another man's wife. Prude. The seriously bizarre storyline that saw Angle pursue Charmel was chock full of uncomfortable moments that took the direction of Kurt's character in a whole new and utterly strange direction. According to Angle, the storyline was the idea of Vince McMahon, who came up with it after hearing that the former WWE champion had dated some African-American women in the past. The Hall of Famer would later say how it was the one storyline he totally regretted doing, and even though he enjoyed wrestling Booker T, would have gladly given that opportunity up if it meant not having to do what he did with Charmel. Number 2, Slick Rick and the Sassy Southern Belle. With Ric Flair's days in the ring well and truly over, please God let them be well and truly over, his value to WWE now is pretty much associating with his daughter Charlotte. Not that the Queen needs the rub anymore, of course, but it's a natural and easy fit whenever the company wants to get Slick Rick involved.
Can we just leave Rick in the retirement home and just let him rot? I don't like Ric Flair. I don't want him around, just let him rot.
One of the Nature Boy's most recent and most lamentable contributions was his intergenerational on-screen relationship with Lacey Evans. As well as grossing out WWE fans, the storyline also made the two-time WWE Hall of Famer very uncomfortable, not least when it was implied that Flair was the father of Lacey's baby. When interviewed after the fact, the dirtiest player in the game admitted that he didn't enjoy doing the storyline and was actually a little mad about having to go through with it, but felt as though Vince McMahon wasn't about to have his creative vision questioned and so bit the bullet. Charlotte also wasn't keen on the whole affair and it was mercifully dropped so that Evans could go on maternity leave. I do still hate children, but fair play to this one for saving the day. Number 1, the big dog, food. Roman Reigns
This is what set him to be trouble chief right here. He's just like, I can't be around this storyline anymore. Listen, if I don't become the guy in charge, the main guy here, if I don't become the top heel, listen, something's gonna go down. They're gonna be dog food stuff. The line was drawn.
had to suffer through more than his fair share of rotten creative as a struggling babyface before he helped take control of his destiny by turning heel and becoming the tribal chief. For Reigns, the tipping point was his interminable feud with Baron Corbin. I mean, that whole story was just a total dog's dinner, wasn't it? I mean, it literally was, because at one point they were fighting because they had covered each other in dog food. While Roman himself hasn't directly commented on his frustrations with the storyline, his wise man Paul Heyman did reveal that the feud with Corbin was the point where the head of the table said, enough. Obviously, getting handcuffed to the ring post and covered in pedigree chum is embarrassing in and of itself, but the bigger issue for Reigns was how far his character had fallen and how his babyface act just wasn't working. His feud with Corbin was the drizzling you-know-whats, yes, but if it planted the seed for Roman's heel turn later in the year, then at least it wasn't completely useless.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this reaction video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see y'all for the next one.